When I was 20, I went through a Don Draper phase. What's a Don Draper phase, you ask? Here, allow me to enlighten you. Fall semester of my sophomore year of college, I got a Netflix account and I started watching Mad Men, which would soon become my favorite TV series of all time. The protagonist of the show, Don Draper, is the all American alpha male, a tall, dark, and handsome Madison Avenue advertising executive who, aside from being a self made success story, is a world class drinker and womanizer. So naturally, in my sophomore stupidity, I decided this was someone I ought to emulate. Welcome to Stone Cold Moderation, a thinking man's journey toward a healthier relationship with alcohol. I'm your host, Chase Lee. Let's continue with our story. I started wearing collared shirts and slacks every time I went out. Don Draper is a devastatingly sharp dresser. And I started ordering old fashions at the bar, Don Draper's drink of choice. I invested in a few classy whiskey glasses for my shitty dorm room, and I generally started acting like a dick, especially to girls. And it was fun, to be honest, for a while. Eventually, I got over myself, and the weather got hotter, so at some point I reverted back to tank tops and khaki shorts, but continued to act like a dick. Looking back, my Don Draper phase is a funny anecdote to tell at a party with those who knew me at the time, but I'm also alarmed at how impressionable I was at that age. It didn't take much convincing for me to believe that dressing up and drinking an old-fashioned would turn me into the second coming of John Hamm. Despite the fact that I'm half Chinese, barely 6 feet tall, was already balding at the time, and was nowhere near executive status. But such images are powerful, and alcohol really sells itself, doesn't it? Growing up, we see adults around us drink at dinner parties, we see sophisticated looking people at happy hour after work, and we see James Bond in the movies drink a vodka martini, smolder for a bit, and then pick up an excruciatingly gorgeous woman at the bar in one fell swoop. And we think, damn, when I'm a grown-up, I want to do that too. I guess I'll drink. Drinking is all around us from day one, and of course, marketed to us by the alcohol industry, which generates hundreds of billions of dollars per year in the US. So exactly how does the alcohol industry market its product to us? All right. Yes. So all jokes aside, I mean, Mad Men is an incredible TV series and is impeccably written. Probably the best written show that I've ever seen. But that's something that I always thought about while watching it. I was like, how the fuck did these guys like drink this much and still make it through the day? You know what I mean? The alcoholism that is displayed in that show is unreal. I mean, every time they go in for like a meeting, every time one of the characters enters the office of another character, it always like a drink is exchanged. They're constantly drinking, and certainly, I mean, in Don's case, like you see his character kind of go through the ups and downs of that. I mean, he completely emotionally falls apart frequently on the show. Um, due in part to his alcohol abuse. But still, I could never, I can't help but feeling like it's giving a very incorrect image of what alcohol really does to you, especially as a man, because I mean, it lowers your testosterone, it makes you less virile, right? Um, and it makes it impossible to be that kind of alpha male type that you see in the movies with the Don Drapers and the James Bonds of the world. So that always kind of fascinated me. Like, how do these guys do this? How do they drink this much constantly and still make it through the day and still have the energy to work this hard? Because me, like, I could never do that. Never do that. Even when I tried sophomore year in college, didn't go so well for me. So, anyways, but still, the point is, these images of alcohol, and of people drinking alcohol, people who are sexy and cool and powerful and have status, these images are very strong. And the alcohol industry is massive. Currently, in the US, the revenues of alcohol sales are above $200 billion a year, and around $2 billion a year is spent on advertising. Okay. Alcohol brands typically promote a lifestyle, cool, sexy, fun. Think of Grey Goose commercials at the club, right? Very sophisticated, very attractive people, very elegant, in the big city at a club, for example. And Grey Goose is a very upscale type of vodka. So that's a lifestyle that they're trying to promote. Or think of Corona beer commercials at the beach, right? Young people, super attractive, kind of, I don't know, maybe not like a vagabond lifestyle, but fun, cool at the beach. And it's very enticing, these images and these lifestyles that they promote. They can often be gender specific. Think like Budweiser beer commercials, Bud Light. Those are targeted heavily at men, with the idea that drinking beer with your buddies is kind of this male bonding activity that guys do. Wine, I guess, yeah, I feel like wine is typically marketed more towards women, as sort of, I mean, there's this whole culture of like, the wine drinking mother, right? Like, mom deserves a glass of wine after a long day. This kind of idea, targeted more at women. Yeah. And in my research, I didn't do a ton of research on this, but in my brief research, at least looking at the alcohol marketing industry in the US, it's actually self-regulated. Okay, so advertisers agree to certain codes and standards, right? For example, of not targeting too young of an audience, so that they're not giving, I guess, misleading, or not misleading, but yeah, targeted messages trying to entice people who are under 21 to eventually drink. And the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is the body that is supposed to monitor them. So I read that due to our First Amendment, freedom of speech, the kind of the power of the FTC to monitor and regulate and enforce, I guess, these standards is kind of limited. But for example, ads must be truthful about health effects of alcohol. You can't have an ad that's saying, oh, our beer is 5% alcohol, but it's not going to get you drunk, or saying that, I don't know, saying that like their particular beverage has a lesser alcohol content than it actually does, or something like that. The FTC is the body that monitors that. Whether that kind of rung a bell for me, because the idea of self-regulation in this country doesn't really sound great, because I mean, my image of corporate America is that there's corruption is rampant, and that was a little bit alarming. But that's the way it is. And I guess ideally, if there's an advertisement from a certain company that they feel like is targeting too young of an audience or misleading in some way, that there will be certain penalties and sanctions for that company. That's the system and how it's supposed to work. Whether it does or not, I'm not entirely sure. I didn't research too much on that, but feel free to hit me up if you know more about that than I do. I would love to hear from you. One thing I wanted to kind of comment on before segueing into our interview for today is that often alcohol ads end with the words, please drink responsibly. And that's always kind of bothered me a little bit, because what does that mean? What does drinking responsibly actually mean? What I've learned since starting this project and since changing my drinking habits is that drinking alcohol in any amount is harmful and is, in fact, in any amount, frankly, irresponsible, right? For lack of a better word. And the idea of drinking responsibly, I mean, of course, one could say, drinking responsibly is drinking and not driving, right? But what does that mean? Is there a number to that in terms of how many drinks you can have in order to be responsible or not responsible? A lot of gray area there, and that's a very kind of subjective phrasing. So I've never really gotten that. I don't know if that's some sort of legal disclaimer that protects them in some way. I don't know, but it's always kind of gotten my attention. Like, what does that mean? So for our interview today, relating to that, I have a friend from Trinity University, my college, who is actually starting a tequila company. And his tequila is actually, he calls it a sipping tequila, which is supposed to be consumed in moderation, which I found very interesting because that kind of goes against typical American retail business, right? Which is more consumption, mass consumption, etc. But he's doing it differently. So I caught up with him a while back to discuss his product, get an idea of his marketing plan for it, and to talk about his experiences and moderation in general. So this is my conversation with Mayo Akindele. All right, so I'm happy to have my Trinity buddy Mayo, on the show. How's it going, Mayo?
I'm well, bro. How are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Hanging out. Yeah. So do you just want to take a minute to introduce yourself to the audience? What do you do? Where are you right now?
Sure. My name is Mayo Akindele. Me and Chase, we met at Trinity University. Just through mutual friends, and we've kind of been friends ever since then. Currently, I'm having some entrepreneurial endeavors, and I'm currently based out of Mexico right now. I really should be back stateside, but with everything that's going on, they're kind of just telling everybody to kind of just hunker down and relax for a bit. So I'm trying not to travel or cross country lines. So right now I've just been working virtually on the tequila brand and, working with pretty much the Mexican and the U.S. government, trying to get approval for exportation, importation. And we're pretty much at the stage now where we're creating our labels and having those reviewed by the TTB for those to be cleared so we can actually be on shelves. And so that's been an interesting process. And it's been really unique because I've never really just had to sit there and always like my POC be a government contact every single transaction. So it's really cool because you really get to see how everything works regulatory. So it's been good insight in just seeing how the products we buy on an everyday basis or for people who drink a lot, but for people who don't. Just seeing the products that actually are on shelves and how it got to that process of being in front of you. So it's not really just I created a liquor and I'm going to put it in a bottle and sell it. There's everything from testing the product to the bottle being a certain size, having certain space in it, the labels having to say certain things, the government warning, just very intricate details that even missing a comma, a period in your wording will have like your application rejected, right? So right now, that's just kind of the process I've been going through on my end, trying to get everything certified to be cleared. So we received our importation permit from the U.S. from the TTB, and now we're actually waiting on the Mexican government to clear us for exportation. And what's really exciting about that is that when it clears for exportation, it's clearance for all countries that acknowledge, tequila as a Mexican product. So we're really looking to be one of the first, like, really just concentrating on a global brand. Most tequila brands are focused on Mexico and the U.S. We're really looking to tap into a lot of markets around the world. Tequila is very new or non-existent in some countries, so we're really looking to take advantage of that.
So with that said, your brand that you've described it as a sipping tequila, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the tequila that you do the salt and the lime, arriba abajo, that
Yeah.
whole shit, which I love. Well, I used to love. So so what exactly is a sipping tequila, and how are you different? For example, how are you different from, I don't know, Jose Cuervo?
Okay, so a sipping tequila is usually made from like Weber Blue Agave, so that's like is specific to a certain region. It's usually mostly found in Jalisco. So that's like it's a tequila where you can drink it and you won't have a chase face, right? Like no pun intended, but it's just like you can sip it and it's like it tastes good. Like those bourbon and scotch where it's like, oh man, they charge ridiculous amounts for the bottles because they age it forever and ever, and et cetera, right? Where it's because of the quality of the spirit that you're drinking that now you can say, okay, look, you don't have to shoot it all at once, because people were shooting tequila because if you sip that, oh my God, you're gonna have your taste buds are gonna hate you. That's not something you're gonna enjoy at all. So it wasn't necessarily like it was like an innovative way. It was like, yo, this is the only way we can take this and not hate ourselves. So like with the sipping tequilas now, this is something like, that was kind of introduced with like, Patron and Don Julio, Don Julio being first, but it's something that it's being improved upon, each year, new techniques, new methods of baking, of distilling, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's the kind of tequila where it's like, for example, our aged tequila, we age it in whiskey barrels, right? So we take the Blanco and then we age it in like American oak whiskey barrels. So it ends up getting like kind of like that smoked whiskey oak flavor, where it's kind of like, so we're kind of like, we want to push it to where, oh man, you don't even need to drink that whiskey anymore. You can try this reposado, this anejo,
Right. Right.
So yeah, just kind of like pushing out a quality product where it's like, quality over quantity.
Right.
Because even with this, when you're sipping it, because now you're sipping it straight and there's no mixer, you can still like feel the alcohol. It's not like, like you drink less, but you end up like still feeling good.
Right.
Because it's not harsh. It tastes, it's smooth, and then you still get that warm, nice sensation. It's not that overwhelming, like, man, that was all at once. You get to control what you're putting in your body.
Gotcha.
So like it's literally when it's called a sipping tequila because you literally sip it.
And the idea, so I guess the idea around the tequila itself is based more around like the pleasure of, like, I guess the taste of tequila, and less about like the alcohol and the getting drunkness. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, you're drinking alcohol, right? So you're drinking alcohol for a reason. But for us, we're saying like, hey, like this isn't necessarily like something you just get wasted on. It's like something that you want something that's quality. You want something that's good. You want something to share with your friends. You want everybody to enjoy what they're drinking. And so I really wanted to be like that toast tequila. When somebody graduates, this is what you get them. When that mom that had that amazing birth and she hasn't drank in forever and she wants to celebrate her the birth of her child. I had a friend. It was so amazing. She was like, "I'm gonna celebrate my child's birth with your tequila whenever it comes out." And I was like, so she gave me her date, and I was like, okay, so now I have to make sure for sure I'm imported by this time, because for me that's kind of like where I want to really pull to like everybody, because all the high quality luxury brands, they really just target, you know, that certain kind of look and that certain kind of market, where for me, no, it like they think people, they don't realize our generation financially will spend money on things that cost a lot if we can justify it to ourselves, right? Where I've seen people with $500 in their account will spend $475 on a festival ticket and justify that. And they were like, okay, that $15, they'll ham and cheese sandwiches, crackers, whatever, they'll make it work for a week or two, until they get more money. But it's just like I know that with the just even without the events and all the things I'm doing on site, just even with the tequila, like it justifies the price. It can justify the price that I'm charging. But I said I wanted to do more, because I know there's going to be a lot of good things that come out for the world in general by bringing people together. There's only it can only be positive when that happens, when it's like an organic like relationship where people are not forced to do things. They want to do things to help people. It's like they're not donating for tax write-off. They're they're like thinking like, man, no, this is really going to save lives,
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of like the vibe and the community that we want to create. And it all just really starts with like everybody looking at themselves and say, hey, look, like we have a role to play in everything that we do. And it even starts with, when we go out and we're drinking, drinking in moderation. Because we've all like, man, when we were in college, we drank a lot. We all did.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, it's just like, whoa, and it was normal to us, and it's just like, really that kind of consumption really shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So more on that, like to play devil's advocate here, and correct me if I'm wrong in like posing this question. But so the retail business which you're in is normally based on high consumption, constant consumption, right? You want, right? Businesses, brands want their consumers to consume as much as possible, right? To keep the business flowing. Do you think your business model is sustainable, since you are actually choosing to kind of market your product as a product of moderation, right? Which is supposed to be sipped instead of shot. Yeah, playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, I believe it is, because I'm not just putting all the eggs in the basket of this tequila, right? Where like I'm really looking at this as like it's like a tech media spirits company, where like there's going to be revenue that's coming in from investment activities, whether we're giving grants out to entrepreneurs or giving out loans to other businesses, people who are trying to get into spirits, just doing different things, where even with the shows, we're going to be bringing in revenue with shows, because we're going to be having legit music festivals. I'm trying to plan one in Houston now with everything that's going on. Definitely, I was already thinking, spring, summer of 2021, but looking at how everything's going, might even have to see for that. But no, definitely it's like it's not just putting all the eggs in the basket of the liquor. And that's also why I did a high ticket item where it's like, with Rolls Royce. How many units do you think they're selling a year? They're not out here like Toyota trying to churn out 300,000 units. They can sell 1,000 units and they're sitting back relaxing. So it's like that's when I told myself, I said, okay, look, regardless of if you do, people were like, oh yeah, but it's easier to do a cheap product because you don't have that notoriety. I'm like, regardless, nobody knows me, so it's gonna be the same hurdle whether I do something that's cheap or whether I do something that's expensive. So I said I might as well do something that's quality, that if I'm gonna put the same amount of work in, I get more out on the back end. Right. So right. That's why I was like, okay, I gotta get an amazing custom bottle. I gotta get amazing quality tequila, and now I got to create this experience where it's more than just tequila, And so, there's different things I'm going to be doing where like I'm going to be having, all the like the shipments and the bottles tracked on the blockchain. We have a company that we have to get some legal stuff straightened out, but we just signed like we're going to be signing with a strategic partner that's a blockchain logistics company, right? Where they're going to be we're going to be having everything tracked on there, where whether it's our customs documents, our bill of lading, invoices, payments to supply, just different things where we're going to be doing a lot of innovative things and using like NFC technology. We're going to be putting chips on our packaging so that people can, the nest that I was talking about. Have you seen like those metal credit cards?
Possibly.
Yeah. So we're gonna be doing like really 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 cool things. Really cool things. I don't want to give out too much yet, but we're gonna be doing really cool things with technology that a lot of companies can't do yet because they're already established. And to implement these things is a huge overhaul on something that they're not sure might succeed yet. So it's like with us, it's like we can do that because this is our start. like it's beautiful because if you're starting now, it's like that's already what you're implementing because that's what you know. So all these things that for them, it's like, man, that's like the new technology that we're not sure of yet. That are like, for me, I'm like, man, I've been using blockchain for years now. Like, I'm comfortable with it. So it's like, for me, it's not like a huge step. Or even with the team that I've put together, like, I've talked to them about it, and it's like nobody's like, they're not experts at it, but nobody's like, like frightened. Oh my God, we're gonna be on blockchain. Like, there's companies that like they hear that and they're like, we can't touch that because we don't have no idea what it is. Whereas in us, we're like, we have people that's not their expertise, so they're not going to be involved in. But they're like, no, I still want to know it. So we have, and that's a difference, and that's for me, that's where I see our competitive advantage is that we're not like, oh, we don't know that, so we're not going to be a part. No, if we can see that will better our business, that will better the experience for the consumer. Oh no, we definitely want to learn that. Gotcha. So it's really cool because, yeah, no. So like I said, man, it's gonna be dope where like people can go back to the package and reorder a bottle from the package that they've already ordered, right, through our chip. So we're gonna be having things where we're gonna incentivize retailers to partner with us because it's like, hey, look, they don't even have to really do much, but just tap their phone on here and it goes to your webpage, and next thing you know, they have a bottle being shipped to them.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be some really cool things that we're putting together that that really just should separate us from everybody else.
Shifting the conversation a little bit because I want to talk a little bit more about like drinking alcohol itself. Because like full disclosure, a lot of people who like typically sobriety podcasts or programs or whatnot would never promote an alcohol brand. Right? And some people who maybe are going to be listening to this episode are going to be shocked. They're going to be like, really? Like you're promoting a tequila brand? Like that's impossible. You can't do that. So I want to like shift the conversation a little bit more to talk about drinking and talk about like, what is your definition of moderation? And do you think it's actually possible and attainable?
Without a doubt. No, for sure. So for me, I really even see the quality spirits as a way to moderate yourself because you don't have to drink as much to feel the same buzz that you would have before. So it's for me, it's like I how do I put it together? It's hard because it's something that we're creating, right? It's not something that anybody's really done before. It's not something that companies will do. But for me, like I said, I'm not really putting all the eggs in the basket of the actual spirit. It's like, there's some people that are going to come to these events. Some people that are going to come to these shows that might not even drink. Mm-hmm. And we want them to come. We want that to be there because we're not just saying, the tequilas was bringing us together. No, we're bringing each other together, And so for me, it's like, I've actually talked to people. I'm like, if you don't drink, don't drink. It's like, it's not something for everybody. And that's why for me, like I said, that's why when I went into, I was already a drinker, and that's why when I was like, okay, if I'm gonna get into spirits, I don't want to have something that's necessarily about raging, And that's actually one of the reasons I got into it, because I saw that I could change that narrative, you know? So that's when I was talking to some friends at the beginning of it, it wasn't because I know people can't just go cold turkey like that. So I know there's going to be people upset about, like, oh, we're talking about tequila brand, but you have to kind of be realistic and say, like, hey, some people can't just go from drinking to like no drinking. Just it's kind of like almost like jailing someone where it's just like, no, work with that person. It's like, no, hey, look, you're drinking way too much. Sometimes just sip, enjoy, and chill until and that's a way to like go into moderation, because now because you're spending more on one bottle, you're buying less, right? So what you would spend on one bottle, you would have bought 3 or 4 other bottles of that other liquor. So you're already drinking less because you're spending more, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah, no, so it's different things that are playing into it. That man, like I'm like I said, I'm just not putting all the eggs in the basket of the tequila itself. The tequila is the catalyst. It's because I'll be naive to say that liquor doesn't bring people together, that liquor doesn't let people have fun, et cetera, et cetera. That would be naive to say that. But it's definitely I definitely want to have it to where it's people who don't drink are comfortable coming to events that people who do drink, because they know the people that drink Serpiente are people who prefer to relax and chill. These aren't people that, because there's people who go out and they might not go out with certain friends because they know those friends are going to pressure them to drink. So the vibe and community that we're creating is not like a peer pressure, like that kind of like, like chug, it's like, have a glass or don't have it, just relax, do you. Like, we're here to create, it's like a bonding mechanism, but it's not the reason why people are together.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. By now I feel you on that. Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about on the show that there's people who are identified as alcoholics and who just should be completely staying away from alcohol, right? And should not be going near this stuff. For somebody like me, I think that very once in a while I can handle it. Like, I could handle a glass of tequila on the beach, right? But yeah, I mean, there's definitely people that there's for sure people who need to stay the fuck away from alcohol at all times and who have to go cold turkey. You know what I mean? So obviously, like, those aren't people who are going to be probably drinking your tequila. But yeah, no, I definitely like the message, because it's definitely original. It's not typical. It's certainly not the way that we learned how to consume alcohol, and it's certainly not the way that I had ever consumed it up to this point, right? And like you said, like, just when we're talking about drinking tequila, there's only like 2 ways that I have ever known to drink tequila. It's to take shots of it and to make a giant ass margarita and get hammered within like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's definitely a cool idea.
Yeah, no, for this one, it's like, no, you pour 2 ounces over rocks and you just chill and sip that for like 30, 40 minutes,
Gotcha.
Just sip slow.
Yeah. It's definitely very thought provoking. For sure. Personal question, do you practice moderation in your own life? Like, where are you kind of on the drinking spectrum, would you say?
So it's interesting now being an owner of a spirits brand. So it's actually funny because I definitely drink less now, which is hilarious, bro. Like, I actually drink less, and I without a doubt am the most sober foreigner in the town of Tequila every time I'm there, without a doubt. Because every time I'm there for work. I'm there on, it's a business trip, and it's like I'm going to the distillery where it's all I can drink pretty much, but it's like, no, they fill up a cup and I take a sip and I put it down, it's like, sometimes I almost feel like, man, like, are they testing me? Like, do they want to see me? But it's like, no, I always have to, because everything I'm doing right now, I have a mindset of business, of creating, bro. So it's like for me, I'm practicing moderation not only for the benefits of my health. It's a financial benefit. It's a mental benefit. It's having multiple benefits coming back to me just by drinking less. So for me, it's been actually unique to see that after I got into tequila, I started drinking less than I did before. Yeah. So I think that's been a cool thing to see too, though, because when I actually originally thought of getting, I'm like, man, dude, I'm gonna be drinking all the time. I'm gonna be wait like, no, it's not that because like again, like I was saying, it's a high ticket item. I'm not gonna be chugging this stuff. I'm not. This is something that like like it's not an everyday thing. It's like it's real. So it's been interesting to see at least where in my terms of moderation, I've actually been not even on purpose. I've practiced more moderation now than I have like in prior stages of my life.
Have you
You know.
seen some benefits in that to you drinking less than, for example, how we were drinking 5 years ago, senior year, on the porch?
Yeah, no. Okay, so what we were putting in our bodies back then too was terrible.
Mm.
It's like for me now, it's like instead of like instead of smashing a fifth, I have two glasses that are like I'm watching a movie or I really have to listen to music, read some articles or stuff like that. It's like it's a completely different mental mind state. Um, and it's just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable than the experiences before. So for me, it's been eye opening for sure. So like I said, yeah, like we're really counting on our a lot of the revenue that we're gonna see is not really even tangible that we can like count yet because we're planning on people that are in our network. We're planning on creating businesses with them, right? So there's gonna be equity moves that we're gonna have that we're seeing that, man, okay, this is what this brand is gonna create, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, man, I definitely congratulate you on the brand. It's definitely bold. It's definitely original. I'm a fan. I definitely would like to get a bottle at some point and give it a shot. Hopefully, I can continue on the on the good moderation on the moderation path, but we'll see.
No, no,
I'm
for sure. And
still
I really like what you're doing too, bro. Like I said, man, I think it's a solid message. It's not even just to like when I talked to you about this, it wasn't even trying like to promote anything of mine. It was really about like, man, like I really think brands in general should. This is because like on my label, I have drink responsibly on
mhm.
there.
Yeah,
So it's not even just something I'm saying. It's like something that I really like. If it wasn't for the fact I think it's owned by Diageo, like I wanted to put there's a website called drinkiq.com. So that's a really like that's something you should talk to your listeners about too, where there's a website just about practicing, moderation drinking.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I definitely don't know of another off the top of my head another alcohol brand that promotes moderation. Not that I can think of. I don't know if you know of any.
no, there's a few. I think Heineken's one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no,
But who
most
like
pretty
really
much
promote it? Who like really?
any brand under the Diageo umbrella is now pushing the responsible drinking drink IQ thing. So Don Julio's a part of it. They're owned by Diageo.
Okay.
Uh, so it's like it's starting to become bigger because if Diageo does it, then that's already going to encompass most of the major brands that you see on the shelves, like Jack Daniels. But they own some really big brands.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, that's something for me to look into. Last question here, just wrapping things up, talking about something not exactly related to your brand, but anybody who knows you as like a very, very prolific and infamous, if I may, traveler, world traveler. So you've seen pretty much every drinking culture that you can probably see. Is there one out there that you thought had like a healthy drinking culture, so to speak? And where was that?
Healthy drinking.
Healthy
That's
with
that's
quotes.
relative.
Yeah, I know.
So, because we all have very unhealthy drinking habits. Every culture.
Yes.
Even the cultures that you would say they don't because it's prohibited or by law you might go to jail or worse. The people that do drink have just as bad as problems because it's illegal, so they do it more. But I'm trying to. Let me see.
Yeah, healthy in quotation marks because like drinking alcohol is inherently unhealthy, but
Yeah, no,
some
I
are.
know what you mean though.
Yeah, yeah.
I know what you're trying to say. I mean, to be honest, it's relative, man.
Yeah. Well, for example, like when I was living in Colombia, and like people would go out and they sit at their table with their friends and they pull out like a bottle of rum, and this is
Uh-huh.
this is not healthy, but this is relatively healthy, like you said. They pull out the bottle of rum and they take out these little plastic. You've seen this, like these little plastic like shot glasses, tiny ones,
Yeah.
and they'll just pour you like a little taste, a little sip, and for all like the friends, and then you drink that, and that's kind of how you drink the entire night. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like that's better than what we do in the U.S. when we just grab the bottle and pass it around. Everybody drinks. We try to drink the bottle like yes, exactly. We try to pull.
Yeah.
We try to take pulls of it and finish the fucking bottle like as fast as possible. So like even those little differences, like when I was in Colombia, I really saw it. And people, like people last longer. People are still dancing at 4 a.m. and I was at 1:30, like thrown up in the bathroom, like I gotta go home. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
But it's also that's what I was saying, is relative, because a lot of these cultures too, people start drinking at a younger age, where like, okay, so you would say some responsible cultures, or you would say Europeans, because their thing is like, no, like wine isn't bad, like we're gonna give it to you earlier so you can know, like, hey, a glass at dinner isn't bad or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So they expose their children to it earlier. So I've seen that like people don't necessarily abuse it as much. Like if you go out, you'll still find the people who go hard, right? Like no matter the country. So that's why for me it's hard. That's why I say it's really, really like relative, and it's really hard for me to point out a country, because when I go out, I always find degenerates. Because like for me, when I go out, you know me, like when I go out, I go to like the local spot. I love, like, the dive bars are like that's like my steez, So it's, for me, when I go out, I always find degenerates. So like that's what I'm saying. No matter the country, I've found like people that are going hard, So, but I would say in just overall culture, man, that's really is hard, bro.
What about like Mexico to the U.S.? Is there any difference in kind of like drinking cultures, or is it kind of the same deal?
Nah, they drink just as much, if not more.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody drinks. That's what I'm saying. It's like, and the thing is like other countries where I've actually realized too, like people drink way younger in other countries. I thought people were drinking early in the States, but like the States is not as bad as I thought it was. Like,
yeah.
Because like growing up, did you really know a lot of people who were drinking like 14, 15? 13?
I knew, yeah, kind of.
I knew, like I knew people, and it was like I can count them on like two hands, maybe an extra one if I had it. But it's like in middle school, it was like, bro, like your parents are super cool, bro. You guys, but they were like wine coolers, right? Like that was like, whoa, what? You guys are that's not like in other countries. That's like, what? That's juice. A wine cooler is juice. We get like actual wine at dinner at 13, at 14. So it's like, so for them, like, drinking hard at 18 is not really like crazy, but that's what I'm saying, it's relative. So man, that's hard. That's a hard question. I've actually never been asked that before, bro. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. I mean, well, my thing is kind of like I feel like it's just kind of alcohol, and the alcohol industry is kind of like an inevitable part of like global culture. Like it's gonna be, people are always gonna be drinking. Like it's gonna be a part of our lives. But I think it's up to, and this is kind of what I'm preaching. Like it's up to every person to decide like what's gonna be right for them. And to kind of, and to, I guess educate themselves, and understand that like alcohol companies, they're trying to get you to drink. They're trying to get you to drink more. They're marketing to you, right? They're trying to fuel, consumption, desire for the product. But yeah, I think it is possible to understand all that and still drink responsibly, quote unquote, to drink moderately, to keep yourself healthy.
Yeah, that's even, it's a good point you saying that too, because that's even something like with our marketing team, we're like talking about just like responsible marketing too, where it's like we kind of want to market more the experiences more than like the liquor, like like show the bottle, show it's dope, show like the tequila tastes good, but like we're wanting to market like, hey, like if you're a part of this is like the people you meet, right? These are the experiences that you have, so that's where we're hoping to use that marketing, where it's not like, oh, come drink liquor, because that's all they can market. They don't offer anything else, Chase. It's like, I'm not necessarily saying that don't blame them, don't fault them, but it's like that's their product, right? So it's like, so that's why I told me, I'm like, no, I don't want that to just be my message, just like liquor. It's like, no, I want to do more so I can focus less on that, but still have that as a product, but like not that be the only thing I rely on,
Yes.
you know.
Right, for sure. Now that I think about it, I did try your tequila at alumni weekend.
At
Um,
Bays, right? Or where was that?
no, because you
No,
we
no,
were
it
at
doesn't matter.
the
Oh, yeah, had it. Yeah, yeah,
you had a
yeah,
bottle and you brought it to the porch, but I was
yeah,
dude, like I was blacked out the whole weekend. Like,
yeah. I remember
but I
that. That was
remembered,
like 4 or 5 in the morning, man.
man. I have no, yeah. That's like I remember that's the last thing I drank. I'm gonna drink Mayo's tequila and then I'm passing out.
That's
It was good though. It
hilarious.
was good. Yeah, but
It-
I definitely hope to be able to get a bottle at some point and yeah, to see what it's all about.
yeah, man, we should get clearance by the end of May from Mexico.
Uh,
So we're looking to start importing hopefully like by end of July, end of August. So summer 2020.
Oof. Yeah, man. Well, I wish you the best with that. I'm sorry about, how coronavirus has stunted all business growth here, but
That's such
yeah,
as life, bro. It's all good.
such is life.
I'm really happy for you to create this, man. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think we should have more platforms like that, because we have enough platforms already for drinking. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we should have a good balance of the two.
Yeah, just trying to give people other perspectives. Um
Yeah.
yeah, man. All right. Thank you so much, Mayo, for the interview. Stay on real quick so we can chat. But yeah, thanks again, man.
No, no problem. You guys have a blessed day.
All right, excellent stuff. Okay, so before we unpack that a little bit, I wanted to give Mayo a chance to leave you guys with his social media contacts and how to find out more about his business. And so here is that information.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to get in touch with us, you can email us at tequila@serpiente.io. We're putting together right now our launch for getting our retailers and everything together. So we're trying to build out our platform on the back end, and then on our social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can find us at Serpiente Tequila, and the @ sign is at one word Serpiente Tequila. So yeah, you guys can follow us there, and then if anybody wants to follow me, you can follow me at Nomadic Gentleman on Instagram. And yeah, man, appreciate you guys having me.
All right, fantastic stuff. Yeah, so a little reflection on that interview. Um, you might think I'm crazy for having, I guess, somebody promoting an alcohol brand on my show. But we're doing things a little bit differently. And again, I'm not here to preach to you to stop drinking. But I am trying to provide alternative perspectives. And I think Mayo's idea and his brand, Serpiente, I think really kind of embodies that. And I like a lot of his ideas. I think it's very positive, and I really hope it works out for him. I wish him the best. I have personally tried his tequila, and it's good. Um, so yeah, hopefully, I mean, if you're interested about that, definitely hit him up. So a few things that he spoke about which really stood out for me. One is quality over quantity. And when I was speaking to Laura Willoughby of Club Soda, it's something that she also um, puts emphasis on. And like Mayo said, I mean, if you are investing, I guess, in higher quality brands, you're probably going to spend less, right? And you're going to consume it differently. You consume a nice tequila better than you do the, $10 handle that you get at the local liquor store that you make terrible margaritas out of. That's just a fact. So choosing quality over quantity, just using that little strategy is gonna help you moderate. And I think that's something that I've definitely. I mean, as you get older, your taste just kind of hopefully your taste hopefully just get more refined, right? But definitely an effective strategy there. Um, he was preaching, social interaction over intoxication. He wants his product to be something that's going to bring people together, but the end of, it's not the alcohol is not the means to an end, right? It's the drunkenness is not the point. The point is the interaction and the connection that you're making with people. And obviously, alcohol is always going to be a social lubricant for us, unless our culture drastically shifts in the next decades or so. I mean, it's always been that, and probably will continue to be that. But how you use it is kind of up to you, right? And like he was saying, I mean, I definitely can relate to when he was talking about, I'm this owner of a liquor brand, and yet I am drinking less than I ever have before, because he is practicing what he's preaching. And yeah, I mean, I think for me, I've understood kind of like the path to recovery as not linear, and it's gonna be some ups and downs on the way. But if you are trending down, if your drinking is steadily decreasing, and you're continuously finding situations where before you would drink and now you're not, because you just don't need it and you don't want to, that's extremely positive. So that's something that I've also kind of been experiencing in my own life here in the last few months, and I'm pretty proud of that. All right, so wrapping things up here, alcohol marketing. I think, like, when you are approached by any advertising, no matter how fun and engaging they might be, I think it's important to kind of critical think and kind of break down what you're seeing. What are they trying to sell you, and why? Okay. What is the message they're trying to send to you? What is the lifestyle they are trying to pitch to you? Is it something that you really need? Okay. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the next time you see, for example, like an alcohol advertisement, maybe kind of assess and take an audit of the emotions that it creates within you, right? Every time, for example, every time that I see a Corona beer commercial and I see these like really hot people like running around on the beach, it makes me feel nostalgic, first of all, for being able to travel and kind of, living that lifestyle. And yeah, like the nostalgia, for example, that's something that kind of gets triggered for me. The freedom, the longing, the youth, right? And the kind of expression of that. And that's something that would tempt me the next time that I'm in the supermarket to look at a Corona and be like, oh yeah, maybe, yeah, I want to experience that again. Little bottle of nostalgia. Okay. So I think if you can critically think in that sense and kind of, take an audit of yourself and your emotions every time you get approached by one of these promotions, it can kind of help, right? And I think the point of that being, and I guess kind of like the overarching theme of this entire project, is the creation of your own lifestyle, right? And I've said it like a million times. I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but it's the creation of your own lifestyle, deciding for yourself what is the kind of life that you want to live. Who do you want to be? Do you need to consume vast amounts of alcohol in order to get that, in order to embody that kind of lifestyle? In my experience, I'm finding that more and more and more and more, the answer is no, which is why I'm drinking less and less and less and less. Okay, so the creation of your own lifestyle, in spite of all of the images that of you see telling you otherwise, in spite of the billions of dollars that the alcohol industry spends each year to try to persuade you to buying more alcohol, deciding for yourself, who are you going to be? Ernest Hemingway once said, "Always do sober what you'd said you'd do drunk. That will teach you to keep your mouth shut." This has been the Stone Cold Moderation Podcast with Chase Lee. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check out the complete show notes of this episode on stonecoldmoderation.com, where you can learn more about us. For access to more content, please subscribe to our YouTube channels, check us out on all other social media platforms, and make sure to tune in next time. We'll be talking about drinking motives.